What up, world? What up, Kings Nation? Light the beam. Welcome to another episode of Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, episode 126, Sacramento Kings offseason update. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and cloudy confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast not only here on YouTube, but on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Patreon, Substack, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Thanks. Happy Father's Day and happy Sunday to you all on this beautiful June 15th, 2025. Hopping into this episode of the Sacramento Kings offseason update, I'm going to pretty much chronologize everything up to this point for the Sacramento Kings and how the offseason has been and how I think things may shape and play out. From the Scott Perry arrival to the rumors as far as free agency to the controversy with C-Webb and DougchCristie to even Paige or Rich Paul's comments. So, a lot of things to really unpack in this episode. Happy to be here with you guys as always. I love you. And before we get started, though, I definitely want to make sure we give a shout out to a couple friends of the show. First and foremost, for my avid gamers out there, for my 2K aficionados. I don't know about y'all, but from 2K, from Sega Dreamcast all the way up to the PlayStation, I've been playing it. I implore you guys to definitely check out in the description box and the link of this video if you are a PlayStation enthusiast like myself. Sony PlayStation's Days of Play ends in 10 days. I implore you, get on there now. It ends in 10 days. Big sales, a lot of things going on there on Sony PlayStation Network with the sales. So make sure you plug in. And like I said, as always, if you're looking for content for Sony PlayStation, you're curious to see what they have, don't forget, you can check in the description box, link of my video, and find it. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. Looking to get out this weekend, looking to take your spouse out, have a great time with some friends, then look no further than the #1 leading ticket seller and reseller in the world, StubHub. #1 seller in the world for live events, tickets, shows, and concerts, StubHub. All right, guys, hopping into this episode, like I said, on the Sacramento Kings update. This has been a very, very weird and wacky-ass offseason for the Kings so far. Obviously, throughout the season, you got rid of De'Aaron Fox, which is probably your biggest news. You acquired Zachlavine. You pretty much turned into the Chicago, Bulls, the Sacramento Bulls. You missed the playoffs by one game. Didn't really end with too much inspiration. 40-win season, but didn't go the way you wanted. Coach and GM were fired. Well, DougchCristie retained his position, went from interim to head coach, and then you got Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox who got fired an hour after the season ended. So be that as it may, it's been a very crazy offseason up to this point. But the great news was the Kings were able to acquire Scott Perry back into the fold and bring him in. And I feel like Scott Perry is going to do wonders for this roster. He was a part of the reclamation team in 2017 that was starting to figure things out and get this team starting to turn around. And then for some reason, they let him go to New York, which I always felt was a bad move. When you're building a team, you're building a roster, you got to keep guys as long as you can to really build up the type of unit that you want. And the Kings front office, just as usual, did a horrible fucking job with that. So it's good to see Scott Perry back. Now, with Scott Perry being back, though, that means there's going to be a lot of changes for this roster. First of all, what's going to happen with DeMarderozan? He's getting traded. I was ecstatic initially a summer ago when he grabbed DeMarderozan. I kind of felt like he was the guy they were missing, the automatic 2 points, the veteran leadership, things like that. But for whatever reason, front office, management, whatever broke down, it just did not turn into what they thought it was going to be. Now, again, you won 40 games, but you lost fewer than what you had 2 years ago. Lost fewer than what you had a year ago. So it didn't really benefit you. It didn't really set you up for success in the way that you thought. So definitely feel like he's getting traded. I feel like, though, Sacramento's in a situation where his salary is tradable. Trade him for something valuable. Trade him for something that you can definitely use now. But, don't just give him up for a bag of chips, because that shit just doesn't really benefit the team in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The number 2 most popular question all offseason: will Domantas Sabonis be traded? My inclination is no. My inclination is no for two reasons. Not because of his numbers. He's been an all-star, second team All-NBA year. He's been one of those guys, third team All-NBA, excuse me. He's been one of those guys that's definitely been a force for this team and been one of the pillars of, a foundation piece for this team. However, I think he needed to have confidence that there was a plan going forward. And I think that contractually, it's going to be very hard to move him. Not impossible now, but hard. Because if you trade him, you're essentially, whatever team that's bringing him on is paying him $40-some million this year. And on top of it, you're going to have to give up a shitload of assets to get him. So that plays into play. And also, too, finally, will Zachlavine be in trade discussions? In my personal opinion, no. He just came off a year removed from an injury. He did look good. His shooting numbers were good last year. He played at a very good level. Sacramento was basically a good fit for him, I should say, for lack of better words. But I don't think that he garnered enough good play to put himself in trade discussions to where he could be elsewhere. I just don't foresee that happening. Now, in regards to Peja Stojakovic and Rich Paul's comments. Now, I previously reported on this, guys. This article was via yahoo.com. It also came from Front Office Sports. And the Basketball Network for Yahoo. I must admit, this kind of startled me a bit, but it let me know how real and how dirty the game is. Peja Stojakovic says that Rich Paul blackmailed the Kings so De'Aaron Fox could end up with the Spurs. He, quote, limited Sacramento from a business standpoint. And this comment all originates from the Basketball Network, where Peja Stojakovic originally appeared. The former Sacramento Kings assistant general manager, Peja Stojakovic, believes that the Kings could have gotten a better package for point guard De'Aaron Fox if they were able to shop him around the league. They pretty much, Page is pretty much telling you, like, they blackmailed us into making sure he went to one team and one team only. We couldn't go anywhere else and get the assets that we wanted. De'Aaron Fox also, you had to see his comments here within here that he denies that there was a list. Emphatically, he says there was no fucking list. Whatever that means. Emphasis, I guess he wanted to curse in that moment. I don't know. But anyway, he wanted to go to San Antonio. That's where he wanted to go. It didn't really benefit the Kings anyway. But at this point, I guess they wanted to take care. Sacramento did the right thing. They wanted to take care of a guy that helped, lead you to a playoff, was a foundational piece for your team for a long time. Take care of those guys. That being said, this Rich Paul shit does not shock me. Small market teams like Sacramento will get pushed around. Unfortunately, our front office has not shown the greatest competency to not get bullied and manipulated in situations like this. So with him getting bullied and manipulated, that's just tough shit on them. I mean, honestly, out of truth, as a Kings fan, y'all have not really done a great job of really making guys feel at home. Whether coaching wise or GM wise, it's something always winds up popping up, but the ownership seems to stay the same. So that being said, Vivek Ranadive knows that he definitely wears some culpability in this, because let's be quite fucking honest. If you had balls, if you really had to say so, or the gumption that, you should have, Rich Paul wouldn't have been able to pull this off. You could have sent De'Aaron Fox to any fucking place that you wanted to and got the picks and assets that you really wanted. But instead, you got muscled into, I'm going to send him to San Antonio. Just weak sauce. Just weak as fuck. And it just speaks to how badly, change has been needed within this front office. As far as the NBA draft outlook for the Kings, I will have it here posted on the screen, the prospects that the Kings are looking at. Looking at a lot of guards, looking at some forwards and some wing players as well, too, which I'm not shocked by. I mean, Sacramento needs to really retool that bench up as much as possible and have some future depth going forward. You do have Keegan Murray. You still have to figure out what you're going to decide with him as time goes on, but you're going to have to continue to build that bench up, especially if you lose guys like Jake LaRavia, who I'll touch on. You have Keon Ellis as a free agent this year, and you have Isaac Jones as well. So might have to make some decisions, depending on who you can get, which I'll get on that in a second. But the draft outlook for the Kings is very simple. You see here, they're looking for guards and forwards. That's essentially what they're looking for. They're looking for guys that can help be playmakers and help set up impossible 3-and-D guys. That's essentially what they're looking for, which leads into their free agency moves, which, startling enough, I must say, Sacramento's name has been hyped around a couple guys. I mean, you've heard Jrueholiday, as big as Jrueholiday, all the way to as small as the likes of Tyus Jones. It's kind of crazy, because honestly, looking at it, I didn't think Sacramento was going to be any type of player in free agency. But, I mean, hell, you got Jrue Holiday, Tyus Jones, Marcus Smart's on their radar. Now, there's a chance they can get Marcus Smart from Washington, for a low fee. However, Malcolm Brogdon's name has also popped up. So Sacramento is definitely getting a point guard. They're definitely getting a guard. I'm not sure who it will be, but they're in the move. They're in the market. I think Scott Perry in his comments, regarding getting a playmaker made that evidently clear. So I'm ecstatic about this. However, who do they grab? I mean, if you get Jrue Holiday, that's great. But essentially, what are you getting Jrue Holiday for, a year or two? But I think with his leadership and his intangibles, even though he came off a bad year in Boston, I do think in the Western Conference, with his leadership and his intangibles, he can help carry that team to a couple victories that they didn't even think they could get. So that happens. I don't think they're going to keep, the Kings will be able to keep Jake LaRavia. LaRavia is one of those 3-and-D guys who said that he's looking for the money this offseason. He would like to come back to Sacramento, but he's definitely looking to hopefully play for a team that's young and in the championship window. That's not Sacramento right now. Playoff window, yes. Championship, no. So I don't see Jake LaRavia coming back. Keon Ellis and Isaac Jones, I do think the Sacramento Kings are going to be able to retain, for that, not that much of a hefty price, but I do feel like that is definitely viable. And then you got LaRavia also garnering interest from the Detroit Pistons. So that kind of plays in factor too. So there's a lot of things going on with the Kings as far as their bench and role players this year and guys they might be able to retain and who they might be able to bring in at the starting point guard position. Because I can tell you this, they tried the Malik Monk experiment. Malik Monk is not a point guard. So now that we know that and we have that clear conscientiously through our heads, this definitely has to be addressed. Also, last but not least, I have to give DougchRistie a lot of credit going into his coaching staff and a lot of the moves that he made for the coaching staff this year. Now, he added Mike Woodson and Bobby Jackson. Obviously, Mike Woodson, head coaching experience, formerly coached the Knicks and the Hawks. Bobby Jackson has been on the Kings bench before. They also brought in Chris Darnell, Mike Miller, not that Mike Miller, and Paul Jesperson. Now, to keep in context, Darnell was a head coach of the Cleveland G League affiliate team, the Cleveland Charge. He went 16-18 as his only season as head coach. He also previously worked for the Cavs, Suns, and briefly for the Utah Jazz. Mike Miller, like I said, not that Mike Miller, not the basketball player, but the other Mike Miller. Has been a long-time NBA assistant for the Wizards. He also worked for the Knicks and the Spurs. He was an interim head coach for the Knicks in 2019-2020. I had to actually Google and look that shit up because I didn't remember that season. It feels like it was 6 years ago, so long ago. As he was a head coach of the Knicks at that time, they were 17-27 under his tenure. Ironically, Scott Perry was there, so there's some familiarity in there with that. And obviously, Paul Jesperson joined Sacramento staff as head of player development. No previous experience. He's brand new to this. He only had 1 year in the G League and previously played in Spain. So if you're really paying attention to the coaching staff, guys that played the game, guys that know the game, really trying to garner and teach these guys and give these guys the experience that they may not necessarily have exactly on the court or from the bench. So I like the coaching hires from DougchRistie. I'm very interested to see how this all formulates to shape out because I do think Sacramento, with a couple good pieces this year, you're probably a 6 or a 7 seed. You're probably a 6 or a 7 seed. So what that shapes out to and, eventually in the playoffs, who knows? But I think if you're Sacramento, you have to try this. You have to try to make some moves. Like I said, the coaching staff, not really too, upset with those moves. I kind of like what they did. But leading all of this into the offseason, I feel like this is imperative for Sacramento to really get these moves right because if they don't, you're going to have to just blow shit up. You're not going to be able to keep those big salaries on and continually to just underachieve. It won't happen. Not there, at least. It won't happen. And then the C-Webb and DougchRistie controversy. Now, I'm going to make sure I choose my words lightly because, as previously mentioned, chriswebber has let it be known that he will be publicly, pursuing legal action on anyone who, brings slander to his name or propagates this in a way that defames his character. So I will make sure I choose my words carefully. But as I previously stated on the previous episode, this is a very fucking ugly situation. Very ugly situation. I mean, I don't know even where the rumor came from, where there's a rumor that the daughter that Jackie Christie and DougchRistie have together is not DougchRistie's daughter. It's really chriswebber's daughter. Really nasty, vicious rumor that hasn't really been substantiated or backed up by any facts or claims. There's some articles here that you'll see from Vibe.com and from Sports Illustrated. hearing a rebuttal from Chris Webber. Again, just more or less the reason why I'm bringing this up. Obviously, it deals with the Sacramento Kings, but you're in an offseason where you got, dougchristie becoming a new coach, a lot of change, a lot of things going on where the team's trying to turn the page and make forge a new path forward, and you got this bullshit going on. So it's a very ugly situation. I hope that everything is worked out. I hope that it was just completely misinformation and a rumor, because this is something that can affect the coach throughout a season mentally. And I really feel like Sacramento really needs, like what they had a couple years ago with Mike Brown. They really need a clean slate to really just focus on the season and just focus on winning, and then let things play out where they may. But nasty situation, nasty times we live in, and the internet is still undefeated. But that's going to do it for this episode, guys. I love you guys as always. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Again, to my brothers out there, happy Father's Day. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Hey to all my fans and subscribers out in the UK. Looking to get out this weekend, looking to make something of your week, then look no further than the Viagogo, the #2 leading ticket seller in the world for live events, shows, and concerts. Definitely check it out. If you're looking for exclusive tickets, look in the description of my videos on the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. Take care and enjoy your day.